Good evening. I now call to order the meeting of the Jacksonville Youth Council. We meet in City Hall's council chambers located at 815 Newbridge Street. This is also where our Jacksonville City Council meets. We're proud to be a part of the official voice for youth in the city of Jacksonville, and we take that responsibility seriously. The Youth Council is open to any student who is eligible to attend a high school in Onslow County, and we meet the first Wednesday of each month at 6 p.m. Students from Northside, Southwest, Jacksonville, White Oak, Richlands, Swansboro, Dixon, Onslow Early College, and Lejeune High School are welcomed. We will now begin with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Cameron, and we ask that you continue to stand for the invocation led by Gianna.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you today to say thank you for everything that you've done and everything that you will do in our lives, God. Please forgive us for anything we have thought, said, or done that is unlike you. And we thank you for dying on the cross that your blood covers our sins, God, that we may be able to live with you eternally. God, we ask that your will be done in this meeting, Father, that everything goes according to plan, how you want it to. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Officers, you have each received a copy of the agenda. May I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
I move to adopt the April 2nd agenda.
I second that motion.
It has been moved and properly seconded to adopt the agenda. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say same.
Aye.
Aye. This is a council that governs itself, decides what actions it would like to engage in, and offers advice to the elected officials of Jacksonville. Be sure to talk with us if you have ideas, questions, or just want to talk about the Youth Council. To help guide us, let me introduce all officers currently elected for the Youth Council. Anaya Ward, Chairman, Onslow Early College. Riley Hayes, Vice Chairman, White Oak High School. Cameron Trafton, Recorder, White Oak High School. Catherine Becker, Secretary, Onslow Early College. Diamond Jackson, Executive Committee, White Oak High School seat, White Oak High School. Gianna Caldwalder, Executive Committee, Jacksonville High School seat, Jacksonville High School. Brianna Hops, Executive Committee, Northside High School seat, Northside High School. Cora Alvarez, Executive Committee, At-Large seat, Onslow Early College. Chloe Hercula, Executive Committee, At-Large seat, One World Montessori. I want to introduce some other people who help to make these Youth Council meetings possible. We do have help with our work. Tracy Jackson is the Director of Neighborhood Improvement Services, which oversees the Jacksonville Youth Council. Pamela Trafton, Senior Neighborhood Improvement Services Coordinator. LaShawn Harston, the Neighborhood Improvement Services Coordinator. We thank them for their help. We also want to give a special thank you to the G10 media crew who assist us all year long and make sure our meetings are televised. They are Alan Covey, Lisa Miller, Joshua Walton, and Kelsey Stiglitz.
On March 22nd, we hosted and participated in the annual Teen Volunteer Job Fair held at Onslow Community Outreach. We had various employers to include Publix and Hilton Garden Inn and nonprofit agencies such as Toastmasters and Possumwood Acres attend. Over 70 people were in attendance throughout the day.
Harmony is our youth philanthropy grant board that focuses on providing youth groups a grant to help tackle issues within the community. We hosted our grant celebration ceremony on March 20th and awarded $450 to White Oak High School Apiculture and Anthropology and $700 to Northside High School Student-to-Student program. We also received the end-of-year grant report from one of our 2024 grant recipients, Aspire.
We need your help. This year, the Mayor Youth Summit is scheduled for June 28, 2025. This is an opportunity for us to bring leadership opportunities to the teens in the community. Would you like to serve on planning committee? If so, sign up with me today after the meeting.
Okay, so is it okay for us to go ahead and step down?
At this time, we invite Will McDowell and Lori Howard from Navy Federal Credit Union to come forward for tonight's presentation.
I'm sorry, Riley, I forgot Lori was in here.
forward and backwards about 30 minutes or so. You're still good. We got 30, 45. It's a little bit of a lot. Okay. Good evening, guys. Thanks so much for coming out tonight. My name is Lori Howard. This is Will. I'm from the Richlands branch of Navy Federal Credit Union, and he's from Swansboro. So a little bit of a distance for each of us. But tonight we're just going to go over our financial health foundations, kind of give you an idea of ways that you can put yourself in a good spot financially as you turn into an adult.
All right, today we are going to discuss creating a budget, saving your funds, building credit, managing debt, and protecting yourself from fraud.
So the first thing is creating a budget. Whenever you guys came in, I gave most of you a budgeting sheet just to where you can look it over. There is both a teen worksheet, just because it fits more of your guys' need, and also an adult one so that you can see about what that is. Does anybody know what budgeting is? Any ideas at all? It's putting that thought into action. It's taking the moment to say, I have $100, what am I going to do with it? Without a budget, you're more likely to be sucked into spending it all on things that you never needed. And now you won't have the money for what you do need. So the budget is where that's helpful. Does anybody know what you can do to increase your confidence with money? Got any ideas? Do you guys feel happy when you spend all your money? Go shopping? Yeah. Mom buys you something, or you go somewhere. Feels nice, right? You get to go out to eat, do things like that. We're going to go over why that budget is so important so that you can spend that money on those fun things.
All right. So as you go through and start to identify some of the expenses that you have in your life, you'll notice that some of these expenses are the same month to month. And those are things, especially as you get older, like housing, utilities, maybe if you have a car, if you're paying for that, a vehicle payment, insurance, things like that. Those are known as fixed expenses. Now, does anybody have any other examples of something that might be a fixed expense, same month to month? Mortgage. Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Anything else? Anybody else? All right. Now, there are some other expenses that are variable expenses. Now, variable expenses can change from month to month. It's not necessarily going to be the same. Things like how much you spend on food, if you buy an outfit that you wouldn't have bought, the last month, if you spend money to go to a show, a concert, if you have a vehicle and you have to have some repairs on that. These are not necessarily, those aren't expenses that you're going to have every single month. Does anybody have any examples of something that might be a variable expense? Yes?
I have one like a question, because I was confused on like whether it would be fixed or variable.
Sure.
Like electric or water, like even though it's each month, but it changes like based on how much you use it.
That's a good point. But that would fall into utility, so it would be fixed because you're going to have that bill every month. But like you said, it might vary a little bit. The water, might not be the same. The bill might not be the same every month, but it is a bill that you have every month. So that's actually a very good question. Yes.
I'll need to do the running around when they respond, so I'll share with you.
Okay.
So
Sorry.
if y'all would hold tight before I come to you, and then that way you can answer.
Sounds good. Yeah, but those are fixed and variable expenses, and those are kind of what you're going to be looking at when you're making a budget for your expenses.
Needs versus wants. My husband likes to tell me regularly that I get these two mixed up all the time because a lot of things that I want, I say I need. I don't know if any of you are the same way, but I feel like I need to get my hair cut or dyed. I feel like I need to get my nails done intermittently, those are not needs, those are wants. At least that's what he tells me. So budgeting can be eye-opening on what you spend money on. If each of you would pull up either the teen or the adult budget that you guys have on you and just take a look, it will be eye-opening of the amount of things that money has to go to every month that we may not think of until we actually need to spend it. So how many of you drive a car? Just raise your hand. Do you guys set money aside each month to pay for your gas and the insurance? Now, do you set money aside in case the car breaks down or if you need a tire? Probably not as likely, right? Because that's not something that you're ready for. So having the budget will make you see where you need to make those changes in your life. On that brainstorm sheet, you're going to have some of your wants and needs. Do any of you want to share what your wants or needs are, or what you think you would like to save money for? We can walk around. Do you have a want or a need?
Sure. I'll say, do you want me to take it? Okay. I'll say that one of my wants is getting my hair done, getting my nails done. Yeah.
How much money would that cost on average?
Well, today I just got my hair straightened. I don't know how much it was because I didn't pay for it, so.
So, lesson learned. Now you got to ask the parentals and be like, so how much did you spend, so that you can start to get an idea of how much it's going to cost you. Biggest reason why you'll not want to know that, what kind of job are you going to need to afford that lifestyle? Because I promise you, all of my kids think that they can get away without working and still spend it all. They haven't figured out yet that there's a cost involved. How about you guys? Do you have any wants or needs that you want to spend money on? Any PlayStation gamers in here? The Switch 2 just came out today.
It comes out in June.
Oh, that's right.
It got announced today.
Today's
Yeah,
National Switch Day, Switch 2 Day. So, how many of you think that off that list you can eliminate something that you would never spend money on? Is there anything that you've seen that you would never spend money on? Probably not, because at some point you're going to have to spend money on just about everything, even if you don't want to.
All right, and we've touched on it a little bit already. This is an example of a monthly budget worksheet. Does everybody have one? Everybody? Anybody need one? You need one? All right. Oh, we did a terrible job. I'll pass them out.
Oh, you are good. I think those are outside, actually. Or, here's I need one.
So these are monthly budget worksheets, and they will allow you to track your budgeted amount that you have set for what you want to spend versus the actual amount that you spend. Another really good thing about these worksheets, and we've got a couple of them out there, but another good thing about these worksheets is they allow you to think more about the different types of expenses that you might have in each little thing. Where if you look at personal expenses, you might think of that just solely like, all right, I need food, but it breaks it down that, maybe you have a Netflix membership, maybe you have a gym membership, maybe you got some clothes that you want, and it lets you separate it really, really nicely as far as the different types of expenses in each different section. Another great thing about it is at the bottom, it has a sheet for savings. And savings is a very important part of budgeting. So you want to start thinking about putting money aside when you're working on your budget worksheet.
So as Will stated, savings is very important. It's critical to your financial planning. Without it, people would fall into that deadpan, like I mentioned earlier, of not having the money if a large or unexpended expense comes up. So imagine you're driving down the road, your tire blows. Do you have any money in your bank account? If not, you're going to have to call somebody to figure it out, or you're going to go into debt. That's where you can get into a lot of trouble of paying that higher interest, things like that. Maybe the parents don't have it either because they weren't taught how to save. There are lots of complications with that. What do you guys think could be an unexpected expense? Any ideas? You're just living your life and one day somebody comes to take all your money.
Medical emergencies?
There you go. Those can get expensive. Medical emergencies, pets, anything else you guys can think of?
Traveling down a road and like family emergency.
Family emergencies. Bills, unexpected bills. Somebody just all of a sudden says, "Oh, you didn't pay your Netflix bill. Here's 6 months of it." Any one of those can come up. Yes, the IRS, they like money. A lot of things come up. What we're going to do is go over the 4 big types of savings that you're going to need. A lot of people think savings is just that, just one savings account and you're done. You actually need a lot of different types of savings, so that's what we're going to cover next. There are 4 main categories: the emergency fund for all of those horrible things that came up, debt reduction, say you have high interest credit cards, things like that, goal-oriented, saving up for that PlayStation 6 that's going to come out one day, or the Switch 2, or a fancy car, and retirement. You guys haven't even started your work lives yet, and you already got to start planning for the end of it.
Now, a great first step for starting your savings is to build a fund, an emergency fund for unexpected expenses, like we just talked about. Now, there's a lot of things that can fall into unexpected expenses. Car repairs, home repairs one day, if there's a family emergency, if there's a hurricane that comes through in our area, very common, and there's things that you've lost in that and you need funds. So you want to have a fund set up in the event of something that you're not expecting. Ideally, you want to set a short-term plan to have savings, $500, $1,000, just a little bit at a time, that you build up a little bit of savings. Once you get a good cushion, you want to work your way to having 3 to 6 months of living expenses saved. That is the recommended amount, just in case, let's say you're working, something happens, you get laid off. You have enough money backed up that you can cover yourself until you get a new job. If you get hurt, you lose you have enough money saved that you can survive off of it for a little amount of time until you can get back on your feet.
The next type of savings is debt reduction. With the exception of setting that emergency fund, this is the most beneficial to you. Say you guys are younger, you're going to get a credit card at some point or some type of high interest loan. If you can pay that off sooner rather than later, all that money saved can go right back into your pocket. If you have that high interest bill every month, though, it will eat you away slowly but surely. Best ways to reduce your debt is to make those larger monthly payments. Don't pay just the minimum monthly payment. If I can drill any one thing into your head, that's what I would say. That minimum monthly payment is there to say you at least got to pay this. But if you pay just that amount, you're going to be paying forever. Second, if you get a pay raise or a bonus, don't put it in your pocket as new money. Put it on your debt. Instantly just take it and, hey, you didn't plan for it anyway, just put it right over there. After debt is paid, consider ways to put the available funds into that savings, either the emergency fund, retirement, any one of those, okay?
Now, another form of saving is goal-oriented savings. Goal-oriented savings is money that you are saving for a specific thing, a specific item, a specific, trip or event, something that you're saving specifically for a goal.
My Disney fund.
Yes, absolutely. Does anybody have an example of something that you might want to save for right now?
College.
Perfect. Yes, absolutely. College. That is an expense. I have a 16-year-old, so it comes up very, very quickly. You don't expect that in life. You expect it, obviously, but you don't think about it sometimes. But that is an amazing thing to save up for, and that is one of the things that you would want to prioritize and set maybe a specific savings just for that.
Well, I want to back up what she said. There are like 529 plans out there, prepaid college plans that parents can start up as soon as your kid is like a year old.
Yeah,
And then you
absolutely.
pay it off over a 17-year period, and it'll be ready for the first day they go to college.
Yes. But
Plan now.
does anybody else have anything that they want to save up for specifically? No? No? Hey?
It's not like in the near future, but when I go to college, I'm planning on moving, and I don't want to rent when I move, so I want to own a house.
Amazing. Yes. That falls specifically into goal-oriented savings. You're saving specifically for a thing. And one of the things that we do suggest when we're talking about goal-oriented savings is we suggest obviously you want to have your savings in your checking, but when you're saving for something specific, we recommend having multiple savings account. A lot of financial institutions will let you open multiple savings accounts, and most of them will let you title those accounts different things. So if you're looking through your accounts, you can see that this is my college fund, this is my house fund, this is my fund for summer clothes. So one of the best ways to get into goal-oriented savings is to segment your money and have them going into different savings accounts.
Quick question.
Yes?
So for our current seniors, to help prepare our juniors and our freshmen, between prom, college applications, graduation, how much do you think or have an idea should your students be saving now? So look at everyone around you. We have some that are graduating this year, some that are going to be graduating next year. What would be a good number for everyone to start saving towards? So if you have some numbers to throw out there, we'll walk around and grab it. So let's start with prom. What's a good number to have ready for prom?
How much are your guys' prom tickets?
Our prom tickets are $60. So honestly, I'd say about $500 to save towards, including like the outfit, the dress, the hair, the suits, the shoes, the everything.
You're gonna go out to eat before that?
Yes, and after too.
I have a senior this year as well.
That was the exact number I was thinking.
All right, so we got 500 out there. We got some more hands.
I would say at least 200, at least.
Very good.
Hair and makeup's about $150.
Yes.
And we buy her dresses in the off season, so they're a little cheaper.
All right.
Any ideas how much prom would cost?
We were talking, and tickets for a guest at our prom is $85. So, and that's not even including like the outfit, hair, dinner, after the prom, because nobody really stays at prom. And then the whole night is probably going to be, what, $5? Would we say $5? $500, yeah.
Puts it in perspective how much money gets spent on a regular basis, doesn't it?
And that's for one night. You know what I think about? That's for one night. That's for one event.
I was gonna say, that's not the senior pictures. Those come up. The cap and gown. I have a senior this year, so I feel like every week I'm pulling out my wallet. I don't know. Applications, because nobody does it whenever it's free application time. Yeah. Anything else that you guys can think of that you guys spend as a senior?
Maybe at our school, they'll do going to like see the like sunset stuff. You have to like pay for like your stuff there. They'll do a breakfast and a walk and all that, so you have to pay for that. So there's a lot of stuff that comes with being a senior that you have to pay for.
You got to pay for all your course at graduation. Like, even if you earned them, you have to pay for them, which I think is,
Do you guys do senior jeans at your school where you guys like take the pair of jeans and?
I mean, you can if you want to, but that's.
Yeah, I don't think that's through
That's a
school.
big thing.
Yeah, there was something else I was gonna say, but I forgot.
But if you did, that would be a lot, that would be some money too, because to decorate the paint.
What about senior trip or project graduation? Okay, so
Parking, yes, parking costs big money. But how much do you guys pay at your school for parking?
Yeah, ours is 25, yeah.
25, yeah.
Okay, so just so you know, Liberty Christian Academy is at $65. And then you have to pay if you want to paint on top of that. So if you want to paint your spot, I think it's another 100.
Yeah, we pay our spots, just if you get one, you get it.
I think we have a hand in the back
Oh,
race.
there you go.
I'm not really in high school yet, but this year we have a field trip and it's $350.
Wow.
We're crossing Carolina, so yeah. And then this summer I'm going to a camp for music and it's $500. So
$850 right there.
yeah.
So when you go home and see your parents, tell them thank you.
Anything else that you spend your senior money on? How often do you get your nails done?
About every month.
How much is that?
It depends on if I get a new set, but it's usually like $45.
So consider that into that same yearly thing, $45 a month, 12 months, over $500 just on nails. Being a woman, man, I tell you.
I have one. So as a junior, I guess you get a lot of opportunities for summer programs. Well, none of those are free, so you always have to end up paying something. One I looked at, I want to say it was close to thousands of dollars, so, yeah.
Where was it?
This was in Connecticut, though, so, but yeah.
Yearbooks cost about $50 on average, so that's $200 for high school.
And if you're a senior, you're going to do a senior ad more than
Yeah, our senior ads, I want to say the cheapest one is about $85. I think that's for a quarter of a page, so.
Yeah, then we have senior rings, and then we have senior jackets and necklaces and everything for graduation.
I'm starting to feel like we're going into debt already.
Yeah. I spent $300 on my class ring already. And then our yearbook ads in the thing are like $75. So yeah, they're pretty expensive.
About the band trip, yeah, I went to band camp last year and it was crazy expensive. And then if you're in like regular band through the school, there's a field trip at the end of the year. You got to pay at least $100 to go. And then I'm in the musical and you got to pay to be a part of the musical, which I think is crazy, but it's okay, you know.
Also, if you play sports for equipment, like if you need new equipment or like your posters and stuff, like all that, yeah, that's expensive too.
Yeah, banners, I think, are on average about $100, if not more, for the sports banners for the seniors. So just off of those handful of things, we're looking at easily a few $1,000s.
My oldest daughter is a senior next year, so I just want to thank you all for horrifying me.
We prepared.
So some saving strategies. We may need these. So we're going to create those specific accounts for those specific goals. So it is perfectly okay, and it's actually recommended, like Will said, to have multiple different savings accounts for those specific goals. So for instance, if you wanted to go to Disney, you could have a Disney account. If you wanted the college, you would put the college account. New car, house, each one of those have their own separate one and just a certain amount to them. So my next one would be pay yourself first. So everybody says, oh, whatever's left over is savings. Well, it's very easy to have nothing left over if you think that way. If as soon as you get paid, you put a specific amount into those savings accounts, that will guarantee that you're paying yourself first. So even if it's as small as $10, $20 every payday, putting it into one of those savings accounts. If you can make them automatic to where you don't think about it, have that direct deposit going straight into that savings account, then you don't have to move any money and you can't go, well, maybe I won't save this month. It will make it that much easier for you to actually save. Look for those opportunities to save. Again, if you get a pay raise, if you paid off a loan or a credit card, that extra money that you were spending every month, put that towards your debt or to your savings, and then you'll have it for that senior year.
Now, you guys don't necessarily have to worry about this right around the corner, but it is something you do need to start thinking about as early as possible, and that's retirement savings. It's the earlier you start considering it and the earlier you start working towards it, the better it is for your actual life. A lot of people don't start considering retirement until they're midway into working. It's just not something that crosses your mind. If you start working on it now, maybe you retire at 50. Maybe you get it all set up and you're done early, all right? But retirement savings is usually a combination of investing and savings. The ideal way when you start working is to use an employer-sponsored program, something like a 401k. Oftentimes they will offer a situation where if you put a certain percentage of your pay into your 401k, they will match it up to, I think Navy Federal does, what is it, up to 8%? 7%. All right. So up to 7% of your pay putting away, they match that. They give you that same amount of money going into it, and a lot of jobs do that. So ideally, when you start working, look into a 401k, look into something where you're putting away money for retirement specifically. If you can't do that, the next best step is to see about putting funds into an IRA. Once you are working, if you're not using an employee or employer-sponsored thing, you have a IRA that you can open and you can start contributing to that. There obviously there's taxes and there's limits of things of that, but you can contribute to an IRA when you're earning income. And if you're not doing either of those things, when you're in the situation to do it, it's always a good idea to speak to a financial advisor and see if you can set up some sort of a long-term plan to earn funds and put funds away for your retirement.
So my next slide isn't as fun because it's math, and I work at a bank, but I'm not that great at math. Are any of you guys mathers? And get at math and enjoy it? No? I'm not. So I'm going to walk you over here to this just where you can take a look. So this is how compound interest makes a difference. If you look at each of those lines, the very first green line that goes almost straight across is if you started with $10,000 in a bank account, such as a savings account, and added just $20 a month for 30 years, so the entire time that you're working, you will have contributed a total of $17,500. $17,200 over the span of 30 years. That's all that would be there. Now, if you were to move up to that red line, if that account earned an interest rate of 3%, so a good money market savings account, a certificate, something like that, your money would grow to over $36,000 in that same 30 years of just putting $20 in a month. Now that big blue line, if you were to be able to put that into stocks or bonds that earns a compound interest rate of at least 6%, that money would grow to over $80,000 in that same 30-year span. That's how compound interest works. So the biggest thing to know is if you put it in your mattress, how much money you're going to have if you put $10,000 underneath your mattress. Unless a bad guy comes in, right? Then how much money do you have? Because the first place I'm going to look in somebody's house if I'm going to rob them is under their mattress, because I always heard it's under their mattress, right? Then you have no monies. How much money if you put it into just your regular bank account? Yep, $17,200, okay? And it's insured, meaning that if a bad guy was to come into the bank or something were to happen and the whole economy shut down, the bank guarantees your money. If you invest it wisely, that compound interest will do the work for you and make it grow faster. Okay. Any questions on compound interest? Yes.
Are there any accounts that have like compound interest that we can start now?
There are.
Okay.
There are several. So, money market savings is one way. That's where it's still fully liquid and you can access it anytime to withdraw from it. Certificates have even higher interest rates and would mature even faster, but you can't touch them while they're in there. So if you put them in for 12 months or 3 years or up to 7 years for some, as long as you left it alone, it would grow that much faster. And you can start those at any age. Yes, ma'am.
Another way to help yourselves budget and keep track of your spending and keep track of your funds is online or mobile banking. Now, if you have, how many of you guys have a bank account of some sort? Outstanding. Outstanding. Great. If you don't, talk to your parents, talk to somebody about getting an account, because the earlier you can start putting funds away, the better, all right? So if you have a bank account, online and mobile banking is offered by essentially all financial institutions. Doesn't have to be Navy Federal. Wherever you bank, online and mobile banking is something that there's offered. And that can help you budget by giving you the ability to monitor your spending. You can, if you have bills, you can pay those online through an app, through the website. You can deposit checks mobily. If you get a check from your job, you can, instead of going into the bank, which is a little stressful sometimes, hard to get there, hard to figure out hours, especially if you have other things going on in life. You can deposit your check right from your phone. You can transfer funds from your checking into your savings. It makes it very easy to save that way. And you can even open additional savings accounts on mobile and online banking.
And even transfer money to your parents' accounts to pay them back for all the senior activities.
We don't expect that.
So next we're going to talk about credit. Does anybody have an idea of what they think credit is? What do you think credit is?
Well, my mom just told me that it's like you can't get credit unless you use credit, and that if you use credit to try and not necessarily pay it on time or late, but a little bit before, so then it'll raise your credit score. But you can't have any credit unless you don't use it. So
it is a very confounding mess, that is true. So the most common scores available are the FICO score and the Vantage score. The range is at 300 to 850. Do you think 300 is good or bad?
It's bad.
It is bad. So if you have a higher score, you would indicate a lower credit risk, meaning that we believe that you'd be good at paying your money back. You can benefit by having lower interest rates, meaning you don't have to pay the bank as much to borrow the funds. We trust that you would pay us back. What do you think would happen to the person that came in with that 300 to 580 credit score? What do you think they would get?
Denied. They're not getting anything.
True, they very well could be, but they could also just get a higher interest rate. Could not to be able to borrow as much money. So how would you tell if somebody was credit worthy or not? How would you know if they were capable of getting the bank's money or your money? Do you know your friend very well?
That's my best friend.
Okay. Would you lend her money?
I would.
Would you believe that she'd pay it back?
If she said she would, yes, she would.
Okay. So if she borrowed the money and paid you back each time, would you keep giving to her?
Yes.
That's a good credit rating. That's how you build that credit score. Now, what if she borrowed it, but she started ghosting you? And she came back a while later, and she wanted to borrow money again. Would you give her the money? but at a higher interest rate, right? She didn't ever pay it the first time. You're okay with, okay? So that's how that credit score went down. So that's what that credit worthiness. Always look to the person to your left or right and be like, would that person pay me back? Would they pay me back on time? Would they make my investment worth it? Okay. Any questions about how that credit score works?
And the credit scores didn't come around until like 1989. So before that, nobody had credit scores.
Right. Yeah, credit scores, she was saying, came out in 1989. Before that, there were no credit scores. Wonder how they figured out if we were available to get money or not from them.
Now, when you talk about credit scores, those are determined by a series of factors. Basically, there's 5 factors that are going to determine what your credit score is. And credit is something, unfortunately, that you guys going to start thinking about. It's, you know, like she said, it wasn't around until 1989, but it is a huge determining factor in the things that you can do in your life going forward. So credit scores are determined by 5 factors. And the 5 report factors that are used to make your credit score, 35% of your credit score is determined by your payment history. So that's if you're making your payments to your whatever debt, whatever creditors you have, if you're making your payments on time, if you're making your payments at all, that is going to go into that's going to be the biggest chunk of what your credit score is determined by. The next would be the amounts owed. So the more money that you owe to creditors, the larger, you know, maybe you took out a big credit card and you spent a large part of that credit card. The more money you owe, the more it's going to impact your credit score in a negative way. So you always want to make sure that even if you have credit accounts opened, if you have credit cards, you know, car payment, things like that, you want to owe as little as possible, all right? New credit, whenever you open a new line of credit, that can also temporarily make your credit score go down. That's 10% of your credit score. 15% is the length of credit history. So if you open a credit card, something like that, you want to, ideally, if you're making it, you know, if you're using it properly, you want to keep a credit card open for as long as possible. You want to manage it properly, but you want to keep it open for as long as possible because the length of the time that you've had credit is going to affect your credit history positively. If you have a lot of credit accounts that have been open for a long time, that looks good for your credit. And the last is 10% is the types of credit that you have. You don't necessarily want all your credit to be in credit cards. If you can mix that up, if you can have, you know, maybe you have a loan, maybe you have some credit cards, you know, a car payment. You want your types of credit to be mixed up a little bit. And ultimately, if you're managing all these things correctly, you keep your credit score on the good side of that previous slide and not the 300. You don't want to go down there.
So we're going to go over some ways to build that credit. So paying your bill on time. A lot of people think that the due date is a suggestion. Do you think a due date is a suggestion or this is the date that it's due? Kind of like a speed limit. Most people think that it's a suggestion and not the end all. Pay your bill before that due date so that it's always on time. Not having it in on time will always negatively impact you. Use credit responsibly over time. So if you get approved for a $10,000 credit card, how much are we going to spend on it? Not the whole $10,000, right? Especially not to get our hair done. And we're going to keep those credit card balances below their limit. Not just below their limit, but below the 30% part of their limit. So if you have a $10,000 credit card, use less than $3,000 of that credit. Anything over that will show negatively. It will show that you're borrowing too much money. Okay, put you in that higher risk field that we were talking about for the credit worthiness. So now that we know how credit worthy you are, if you paid your bills on time, you can keep borrowing. Whenever you show the bank that you can't pay on time, they stop letting you borrow. And unfortunately, most banks do communicate with each other now. So if you come to one bank and you go, oh, I can't pay my bill, and then you go to the next bank and they go, yeah, we just seen that you couldn't pay your bill. So that's where you get in trouble. So keep yourself honest, okay?
Can you talk to them about how if you do good on your paying your bills and all that, the bank will raise your credit limit?
Yes, so for credit cards, as well as if you needed more loans in the future, things like that. So if you pay your bill on time, if you show that credit worthiness, then you can get your credit card limit raised. So instead of having $10,000, maybe we'll give you $20,000 or $30,000. Where that's beneficial is not for you to spend that $20,000 or $30,000, but it shows that you're worthy of that much credit line, and that makes you appealing to other banks and institutions for lower interest rates and more credit, if that makes sense. When you're down on your luck, nobody will give you money. Whenever you're able to show that creditworthiness, just about everything is open to you of being able to borrow those funds that you may need in the future.
Sometimes they'll raise it without even asking you, so just be careful.
And we have people come into the bank on a regular basis and ask us to lower theirs. Be like, I feel like they gave me $30,000 credit limit. I don't think I trust myself with that $30,000 credit limit. And we will contact the bank and bring it down to where they're comfortable with it. So don't ever be scared to ask for that as well, okay? Always put yourself in that comfortable spot.
All right, now we're going to discuss credit cards a little bit. I'm going to pick on this side of the room, all right? Who knows, no wrong answers, we're just probing here. Who knows how credit cards work? What, kind of the concept of what a credit card is? Sort? What do you got?
So I was actually just thinking about this. I know, I talk about this a lot with my mom and how she'll say, I'll put something on my credit card. I know sort of that you have to pay whatever you spent back towards it. Also, I have a question about it, actually. So if you make a big payment on your credit card, you still have to pay that payment off, right? As well as the actual amount that you're getting from your card. So you have to do both of those. Oh, that's great.
So credit cards are a revolving line of credit. So they'll, let's say you're approved for $3,000 on a credit card. You have that $3,000 available to you for as long as the credit card account is open. You can spend $200 of that. You can spend the full $3,000 if you want. You always do have a monthly minimum that is paid back, but you owe whatever you pay. So, whether you spend a little bit or you spend all of it, you're going to have to pay that money back. The best way to make that work for you is to not spend all of that card. You want to use that card, you want to manage it properly. If you look at the slide up here, this is a $2,500 card. If you have a situation where you use that full $2,500 of that card, and you are only making the minimum payments back, they tell you the payment's only $50 a month. You can pay that, and you think, oh, well, I'll pay $50 a month. Now you have to worry about interest, because when you pay that $50 a month, if you use that full $25 and never touch the card again and just pay $50 a month, you're not paying that card off for 94 months. All right, so you're paying that $2,500 off forever, and by the time you're done, you've paid almost $5,000 in interest and fees back. Now, even if you up that a little bit and you say, well, I'll pay $200 a month, I'll get ahead of it, it's still going to take you 14 months to pay that whole thing off, and you're still paying more than the $2,500 that you initially borrowed. When you use a credit card, you want to be smart. You want to use only as much as you know that you can pay back on a month-to-month basis. So if you have a card, you have credit, if you have you have monthly purchases that you're going to do with it, use those monthly purchases and pay it back immediately, the same as if you were using your cash. That way you're going to build that good credit. You're going to, it's going to be working for you, and you're not going to see the negative effects of credit. Now, if you get yourself upside down on it and you use the full amount and you can't pay that back automatically, that's when it starts to turn on you a little bit. So you just want to make sure that you're managing your credit properly.
Just to piggyback off of that real quick, if you look at that first one of that $50 a month for 94 months, that is if you never use that credit card again while you're paying for that 94 months. So a lot of people don't realize that. So if you end up going, well, I need a tank of gas and I'm still paying that, you're going to pay even more in interest on top of that. So always consider that each time that you go to make those monthly payments.
And always pay on time. That's very important. It's very important. If the due date is the 15th, make sure that you've paid that full amount on the 15th. That's how you prevent that interest from building up on you.
Yes. So there's lots of different types of debt. There's good debt and there's bad debt. I know that we've kind of scared you guys into thinking that everything is for bad debt. Does anybody have an idea of what could possibly be a good debt? College is a very good debt.
A house?
This is also a very good debt.
Somebody over here. Somebody over here. Give me something.
Come on. What goes vroom? Car is a very good debt because it's going to get you from place to place, right? What do you guys think is a bad debt?
Maxed out credit cards.
Yes, having a maxed out credit card. Gambling. Ooh, gambling is a very bad debt. And now that North Carolina made it legal, that's very more possible.
I was just gonna say that.
The gambling, very good. Any other ideas of bad debt? Are those credit cards? Owing friends, owing family, those are bad debts. Because most of the times friendships and families get very injured, if not broken, because of failure to pay. So as she said, she'd give her friend the money. If it became strainful after, say, she borrowed $10,000 and started ghosting her, that is stressful for both parties because now you feel like you lost a friendship on top of the money. Bad debt.
Now, debt, like you said, there is good and bad debt. Almost everybody universally in our society is going to have some form of debt. It's hard to live how we live and operate how we operate and not ever run into debt. So the key for you guys is to learn how to manage that debt properly. If you have a little bit of debt and you manage it properly, it can actually work for you. It can actually help you out in the long run, all right? So first, you want to borrow only what you can repay. The idea here is that you want to only have about 1/3 of your income maximum tied up in debt, and that's all debt. That's your mortgage, that's car payments, everything like that. You only want maximum about 1/3 of your income. So when you go again into unexpected expenses, you can account for that and you're not fully worried about the debt that you owe. All right, you want to know how much you owe. So on something like one of those tracking sheets that we gave you guys, you want to account for all the debts that you have. You want to account for how much you're paying, how much you owe, and you want to make sure that you're tracking the payments that you make so you know exactly where you are at all time with your progress. And again, you want to start an emergency fund, again, for unexpected expenses. So you do all of these things together and you can make that debt work for you. You can have a car payment, you can have a mortgage, you can have something like that and still have it affect your credit and your credit score and your financial profile positively.
Avoiding delinquency. So if you miss a payment, that not can only lower your credit score, it can impact if you even keep a car or a house, because over time, they can take those things away from you. You fall into delinquency. Ways to prevent that is to pay your bills in order of their due date. So if you have every single bill due on the 1st of the month and you don't get paid until the 5th, are you going to be able to pay your bills on time? Probably not. Best thing you can do in that case is to contact those creditors and ask to adjust those due dates to align with your payday. Structure your payments. Don't have every single bill come out on one payday if you have 2 or 3 paydays, because most people now get paid bi-weekly, every 2 weeks, things like that. Structure those bills around your paydays to where you know you have those funds to pay them. Set up automatic payments to where you don't forget to pay those bills. Pay online to reduce any delays, and pay as much as you can. So biggest thing, like we said earlier, is if you owe $100, don't make the $10 or $20 minimum payment. Try to make the whole $100 payment, okay? If not, try to bite as much off as you always can to keep those interest rates low, okay? This is my favorite.
No. We're talking about tackling debt here. Debt can, if you get in debt and you get upside down and you get, where you owe more than you can afford to pay monthly, which is what we're trying to give you the tools to not have happen. You have that happen, it can be very overwhelming very quickly. You feel like you're sinking. You feel like you can't get out of that. So there are ways that you can approach that, though, there's a few different strategies. Two of those are the snowball effect and the avalanche technique. Now, with the snowball technique, what you want to do is find, out of all of the different debts that you have, you want to find the one with the smallest balance and pay the most towards that while you're making your payments. Pay a little extra towards the smallest one. The goal here, ideally, is to pay off your smallest balance first, and then you can move on to throwing extra money onto the next smallest one. And you are knocking out payments and ending up with less payments and making it easier to pay all of them off. Another way, the avalanche, is if you find the one with the highest interest rate and pay extra towards that first, and you pay that one off first. The goal there is that you overall pay a little bit less in interest than you would paying it the other way. Any way that you do it, the only way that it's going to work is if you find something that you know you can stick with. So whatever method you decide, if you use the snowball method, if you use the avalanche method, if you come up with your own method, make sure it's something that you can stick to and you can do consistently. Because, again, it can be overwhelming when you're in debt, but if you find a method that works for you and that you can do, and as long as you're consistent, you can get out of it.
Options for managing debt. What do you guys think is the worst thing that you can do if you owe somebody money and you can't pay them? Got any ideas? That would be a consequence of disappearing on them. But the worst that you can do is ghost them. Because now, not only did you not pay me, now I think that you did it maliciously. So always call the creditors. Contact them. Be upfront and honest. Hey, I bit off more than I can chew. I can't pay your monthly bill today. Most creditors, if not all, are willing to work with you as long as you are willing and able to be honest with them. So make the call. It may be hard to admit that you can't make that payment, but I promise you, like I said, they will work with you. Debt consolidation loans is another way. You can come into the banks and we can work with you on taking all of the debt that you have, combining it into one spot, into one loan, to pay off all the other loans and credit cards and stuff. But again, that's usually a higher interest rate. So you want to do it as soon as possible when you're starting to feel overwhelmed. Balance transfers. If you have a credit card with a high debt and a high interest rate, you can look for other credit card companies that may have introductory balance transfer offers to where you can move your money to them and pay nothing or much lower for a short period of time, just to where at least you can bring those balances down. Because whenever it's 20% interest rate on $2,000 and you're paying $20 a month, it's not moving, ever. And then it feels like you're paying it every single time and it's still not coming down. If you can consolidate that into one and knock it out faster, you'll save yourself the money and the stress, okay?
This is what I just want to touch on real quick for you guys as you get out into the world. And one of the things you're going to run into is predatory lending, all right? And with this, there's things like payday loans and title loans and things that seem really almost too good to be true, but it seems really, they want to get you by saying, we can give you, you'll sometimes see a check come in the mail and it'll have your name on it and it'll say $4,500. And they'll say, all you got to do is sign right here on the back, take it to your bank, you get $4,500. And what they don't tell you is that there's a very high interest rate on that, and the payments are very easy to get upside down on. You don't want to ever fall for any of those payday loans. Payday loan is, they can sometimes call it a short-term loan. They can call it a small dollar loan. It has a few different names. The goal there, though, is, again, they're going to have a high interest rate, and the payments are going to come at you quick. And you look at it and you think, well, I could really use $2,500. I could really use $4,000, and you're not thinking about how much you're going to end up paying if you don't. Now, if you also look at title loans are basically the same thing as payday loans, but they want you to put the title to your car as collateral. And that is very dangerous, because if you get upside down on that, now all of a sudden this lender that gave you $4,500 has taken your car. So you want to make sure that you're not falling prey to any of those. If you need a loan, if you need something like that, if it's money that you just can't afford to pay, you need to be realistic that I can't afford to pay that. If it's a loan that you can afford and you want to look at a legitimate financial institution, because with a lot of these, if you don't pay them right away, they become an enormous financial burden for you.
So next we're going to move on to protecting yourself from fraud. Unfortunately, in today's technology world, fraud has skyrocketed across the world. It is something that everyone, unfortunately, will experience. We can't even say you may experience it. You will experience it at some point. It is a guarantee now, sadly. So scammers have a lot of creative ways, particularly online, to not only come between you and your money, but also you and your personal information. So you may get a text message, and we were talking before the presentation started about the text messages for the traveling toll roads. Has everybody just about gotten those now, saying that you owe the toll? Those are scammers, hoping that you'll click on that. Even if you click on it once, they can now get inside of your phone. They can see your information. So now they can get into your bank accounts. These are things that are real and happening on a daily basis. Biggest thing that we're going to do is teach you some ways to protect yourself from giving too much information. Does anybody click on a link that's in a text message from somebody that they don't know? Should you click on a text message link from somebody you don't know?
No.
Do you know why? Fraud. Do you know that they can get inside of your phone from doing that? Do you guys ever answer the phone from people's numbers that you don't know and talk to them? Well, y'all are very smart. That's good. So unfortunately, that's another, and now the AI is a thing. They're now using those in order to get your recordings and use them on other people and be like, oh, Trisha over here said this. And, well, it sounds like Trisha, so yeah, she said yes, so I'll give you my information too. So be very mindful. We're going to cover some more of that now.
And beware of phishing schemes. Now, there's a bunch of different ways. There's phishing, there's smishing, there's vishing, there's all the ishings, yes. There's a bunch of different, and basically, at the end of the day, long story short, it's anytime someone uses, whether it be through a phone call, whether it be through email, text, social media, they want to get your personal information. So if a lot of times they will pose as, sometimes they'll pose as a bank, sometimes they'll pose as the government, sometimes they'll pose as just a business that you actually use. And they, like she said, they'll send a link, they'll try to get your personal information. None of these entities, the government, banks, businesses, no one is ever going to reach out to you and ask for your personal information. So step one, like she said, if you find an email, a text, something like that that wants you to click on a link and it's not something that you expected, do not click on the link. And number two, if you speak to somebody on the phone, through email, social media requests, do not ever give out any of your personal information, because the goal of that is to get your information and take your money or open a new account, something like that. They want your information because it's as valuable as money nowadays.
So phone scammers, which is the phishing part of that, use the internet to make calls from all over the world. They are capable of pretending to be the banks, the government, your mom, your best friend. They can easily use AI. They'll act like other companies. Oh, it's Spectrum, and you have an issue, and you have a Spectrum account. Sometimes these scammers know the last 4 of the account number, or will say, I have the first 6 of your debit card number, just verify the last ones. Almost all debit card companies have the same starter numbers. So as long as we know what bank you have, we can easily say, yeah, these are your 4, 6. That gives you a sense of comfort that, oh, that's probably legit, so let me give them the rest of them. That is not what any financial institution or business would actually do. But they elicit that strong emotion out of you because it's always that sense of urgency. We need it right now. We've got cops on our way. They're going to send a warrant out for you because you haven't paid this yet. We're coming to repo your car. They will put that fear in you. We have your wife. We have your friend. You're like, oh, here's my money. If it's ever super sudden and they just want that information right then, take 5 seconds, just 5, and go, let me call you right back. Click. If they're a legit company, whenever you call that legit phone number, not the phone number that called you, call the legit phone number, because sometimes even though it will say the company's phone number, we have them now come into Navy Fed and say that, oh, somebody just called us from your 1-800 number. Whenever we call you, it doesn't show up as our 1-800 number. It will just show up as a 5-digit code. But they're spoofing now, where they can copy our phone number and make it look like it's us calling. Call the legitimate company back. If we truly called you, we would have record of it and be able to tell you what you needed, okay? If not, then you know that it was a scam.
Identity theft. Now, when scammers, again, what they ultimately want to do is they want to get your identity. They want to get information enough that they can pose as you, and they can open accounts, they can get a driver's license, they can get a passport. If they have enough of your information, they can pose as you and open credit accounts. They can do a lot of things. This is where ultimately, I don't want to beat a dead horse, so I don't want to, this is a lot of these are a little repetitive, but ultimately you just don't want to give your information out to anybody that you do not know exactly who you're talking to. I know a lot of times when it gets to the point where you guys are looking for jobs and you guys are starting to, you'll see things online where somebody will, say that they're offering you a job and, you're perfect for this job. We just need your social security number so we can, your social security number, your bank information, we can set up your direct deposit. A legitimate job's not going to do that. So basically, you just, at the end of the day, you just want to make sure that you are not giving out your personal information to anyone. You want to guard your social security number. You want to guard all of your personal information as much as possible.
Ways to protect your personal information. Most of you are younger, so I bet you're not carrying around your social security cards. But did you know that that's actually something that the older generation, not even quite my generation, but the age above mine, carries their social security cards in their wallets? Most people will carry every single debit card, credit card, any type of identification. If you have military ID, photo ID, passport, all the things, they'll carry every bit of it on them. What do you think happens if their wallet is stolen? It's all gone. And by the time that you're able to contact the 16 credit cards to let them know that your stuff is stolen, the scammers have already used it off of 10 of them. So the biggest thing that I can say on that one is don't carry more than what you need in your wallet. If you expect to stay in the town of Richlands or Jacksonville and not go to Florida, there is no reason for you to carry every single debit, credit card, social security card on you. If you don't plan on spending money off of a credit card, leave it at home. That's one more way to protect it, right? You're going to safeguard those documents. Don't carry them with you. Put them in a safe place. Don't share them with friends. Use strong passwords. I love whenever the teenagers come into the bank to open their first debit cards and set up the online banking, and they're like, what do I use? Most of them want to use their birthday. What's the first thing that you think the bad guy, if they knew you and took your debit card, would use? Probably your birthday. Don't use something super easy. Don't use your pets' names. Most people will start to guess those types of things very easily. Make it harder for them to get a hold of it. Monitor your accounts. Most of you raised your hand and said that you have checking and savings accounts. How many of you check them at least weekly? Oh, that's not as many hands as went up for having those accounts. So if you go in and check them, then you can see if there's fraudulent activity. If you wait over 30 days to go, man, I didn't realize that somebody had taken $5,000 from my account, chances are the bank's probably not going to give that back to you because now it's been so long and they've taken it. We don't know if it's really a fraud or not. So you always want to check it. Again, don't provide that personal information. And review your credit report at least once a year. Are any of you over 18 other than the parents? So once you turn 18, you'll have access to your actual credit report. It is free to pull it, okay? Free once a year. You can actually pull it from each company once a year. So what we recommend is every 3 months, you pull it from one of the 4 major credit bureaus. Does anybody know what any of the names of the credit bureaus are? You've probably heard of them. No, the credit bureaus, yep. Asperian, TransUnion, Equifax. And most people, I can make my coworkers do this all the time because they never can remember it. Innovis is the last one.
Freeze your credit temporarily, and then if you want to use it again, then you call up those
Credit bureaus.
credit bureaus and have them reset it.
Yes, freezing your credit is very smart, especially if you don't plan on using it for a loan or a credit card or something, because then the bad people can't go in and make those new accounts for you. Okay?
I do this. Me and my daughter, we travel overseas every couple of years. So before we leave our house, I make a photocopy of our credit cards, our passports, driver's license. That way, if our purses get stolen, then we can got our information and we can go straight to the embassy or consulate.
I love that. That is very good. I'm going to have to remember that for my next fraud one. She's like, yes, Mom.
Hey, it's a good idea. It's something we should start doing.
And you guys have been very patient. You've been an excellent audit. So we're wrapping it up here. We're getting right towards the end. Really quick, want to touch on card security, one of the last things I got. And that is just, if you have your debit card, if you're using an ATM, make sure you check the ATM. One of the easy things that they do is they will put machines right now on ATMs. They have little machines that if you slip it in, you think you're just getting $20 and it reads the numbers on your card. Or they'll install a camera next to it so it'll read the numbers when you're putting it in. You think you're just using an ATM and now they have all your information. You don't know how they got it. Just be safe. Make sure when you use an ATM, you're touching on it a little bit, making sure that nothing's out of place, nothing's coming off. And whenever you can, use an actual bank or credit union, an actual ATM attached to a financial institution, because those are closely monitored. We check those every day. You're going to have a lot less of a chance of those being used improperly.
Be aware that somebody's not standing right beside you to
Yes.
make those transactions as well.
Same thing with gas stations. When you go to, that's also a really good one. Thank you for, when you go to, it's a lot of the same things. They'll put those same, so just make sure when you're making these transactions, when you're using your debit card, safest way right now is use the touch to pay, because the touch to pay is just going to open up a transaction for your card and it's not necessarily giving your card information out. But if you're sliding that card, if you're putting it in there, make sure you're tugging on the machine, make sure you're making sure that there's not any glue or any loose holes or anything like that when you're putting your card in a machine.
Fraud response. When it happens to you, like I said, unfortunately, it's a sad reality that everyone will be frauded now. Take immediate action. Don't realize that your bank account was hacked on Friday night and you wait to walk into the bank on Monday morning. Immediately log into your bank account and freeze your debit cards while you're calling us and be like, hey, something's not right. Even if they're able to convince you that, oh no, that really was you, it was a payment to Amazon that you forgot about 6 months ago. Freeze it to protect yourself first and then notify the financial institution to make sure everything is good. Review your credit report. This will make sure that they're not into other things on top of that. place a fraud alert. That's something that all banks can do for you, to where we know that you may have been frauded at Wells Fargo, and now we're going to monitor you at Navy Fed just to make sure that you don't have any suspicious activity over here as well. If you're able, please don't be scared to file a police report. This not only can actually get them to catch the bad guy and get your money back, this can save your friend from being frauded as well. A lot of people are scared to file police reports, be like, oh no, here's the $200, it's fine. File the police report. If they ever find the bad guy, hopefully they can get your money back.
And you guys have been troopers. Thank you so much for giving us your time. Last, I just want to touch on and tell you guys that everyone's financial journey is unique. Everyone's going to have, things that happen in their life, significant life events. You start a family, you get married, you make a house purchase. Everyone's going to have different things that you can prepare for by budgeting, that you can safeguard by, using tips to try to prevent fraud in your life, and what you can do if you have any fraudulent situations. But at the end of the day, all the decisions that you make and the choices that you live with are going to be what determines your financial journey. And hopefully we gave you some information today that empowers you guys to make the best decisions. Again, thank you for listening to us, and you guys have been wonderful.
Any questions? Any questions or anything? All right. Well, we really do appreciate it, guys. Thanks again.
Thank you. All right, let's give another round of applause for Navy Federal. And it's definitely huge and definitely needed. How many currently are working right now? All right, so we got some hands up that are currently working. How many plan to work before graduation? All right, because you can actually set up one of your IRA accounts while you are employed. And if you do it early enough and start putting money in, and like they said, put the money in there, leave it, and let that compound interest hit, you could be looking at millionaire status by the time you're in your 20s, early 30s. So if your goal is to be pretty good with your money, then go ahead and get started now. So it's not too late to go ahead and get your budgets together. Because how many are driving? How many are responsible for gas? How many are responsible for buying your own food? All right, how many are responsible for car insurance or putting something towards it? How many have a house bill they have to pay for? All right, so those are things that your parents are getting you prepared for now, so you can definitely start doing that with your own money. All right, lastly, because I know we are wrapping up, so we have the planning committee that we talked about earlier. Let's see, you have that. Is that there? Okay. So Ms. Cora talked about the Mayor's Youth Summit. That's going to be June 28th, and what's going to be special about this year is that you, the Youth Council, will plan that summit. So if you're interested in being on the planning committee, actually coming up with the theme for the year, coming up with the topics, identifying speakers, if you yourself want to be a speaker presenter at the Youth Summit, then definitely sign up for this Leadership Summit, okay? We did it in 2020 where we called it 2020 Vision. You know, we played off of the 2020 year, 2020. So we called it 2020 Vision. So it's whatever opportunity theme, but if you want to be on that planning committee, definitely sign up because we'll have separate meetings specifically for that, okay? We don't have any other updates, anything that we need to know before we leave. I know Gianna had an announcement, so I'm gonna let her give her announcement, which is a huge celebration to her.
Thank you, Ms. Pam. So I applied to a Jones Onslow scholarship thing. It's not really a scholarship, but you had to turn in an essay about electricity because they're the electric company, and I won a free, all expenses paid trip to DC during this summer. It's a week long. We're gonna go to museums and speak with all the electricity co-ops and stuff like that. there were 4 spots and 2 alternates, and all the winners were from my class out of Onslow County and Jones County. So, yeah, thank you so much.
Any other wins we need to announce? All right. I know y'all shy and tired and hungry. So, next meeting, first Wednesday, bring a friend, bring 2 friends. Don't forget, we are getting ready. We'll do the sign-up sheet for the planning committee. Definitely plan to do that if you're interested. I'll send an email out because we do have some volunteer opportunities coming up in April. So those will be coming up for you as well. All right. Well, if all hearts and minds are clear, we'll have a good night and sign up for the planning committee, Mayor Summit.